All but one game has been played in the 2022 NFL playoffs, and there has been a lot to take away, both good and bad. Both number one seeds in the Philadelphia Eagles from the NFC and the Kansas City Chiefs from the AFC are headed to the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot to take away. Sure, the playoffs this year may have been more predictable than years past, but there was a lot that took place over the past few weeks. Tom Brady retired, Daniel Jones won a playoff game, and the once viewed almighty Buffalo Bills lost by 17 points at home. Mr. Irrelevant in Brock Purdy suddenly became very relevant and was the quarterback for a team that appeared in the NFC Championship game. And Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley, yes, he made the Pro Bowl, nearly led the Ravens to victory against the Cincinnati Bengals. And in today's video, we are going to discuss some of the biggest things we learned from the 2022 NFL playoffs. And there is quite a bit to dive into in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin. And the first thing we learned in the 2022 playoffs is the talent difference between some teams is palpable. There were 10 games played between the wild card and divisional round of the playoffs, and 4 were double-digit losses for the losing team. And these weren't 27-17 losses where the game got away from the losing team and they threw a pick six late to make a 3-point loss a 10-point loss. The 49ers beat the Seahawks in the wild card round by 3 scores, and the Cowboys beat the Bucks by 3 scores in what was Tom Brady's final game. This will also correlate to another point in the video, but this game was in a lot of ways ugly. Tom Brady was under constant pressure and threw an absurd 66 passes during this game. The Bucks couldn't protect Tom, and the talent difference between the Cowboys' defensive line and the Bucks' offensive line was noticeable. There's a reason the old phrase is defense wins championships, and while Dallas lost their next game against the 49ers, whether the quarterback was a 45-year-old Tom Brady or a mobile quarterback that could handle the pass rush better than Tom could, it did not matter. Dallas's defensive line kicked Tampa's ass all game, and it showed. And the Bucks ran the ball in this game 12 times for 43 yards, so it's not like they could turn around and hand the ball off to get something going. It was an extremely frustrating game for Tampa, and when you are that outmatched up front, it shows. For reference, Leonard Fournette had 5 carries for 11 yards, which came to a whopping 2.2 yards per carry. Fortunately for Bucks fans, this wasn't the only beatdown this postseason, as the Giants were hopelessly outmatched in Philadelphia in the divisional round. The final score was 38-7, and for as good of a season as the Giants had, relative to the expectations they had in the preseason, I don't think it was a surprise to many when they lost to Philly. The score and how this game was played may have been a surprise, but the number one seed in the conference winning a home playoff game was not. Within this game specifically, Daniel Jones was under pressure a lot. And when he was under pressure, he was just 2 of 9 for 23 yards with an interception, along with a passer rating of, 0. The Eagles have one of the best pass rushes in football, and the Giants' offensive line, most notably rookie Evan Neal against Hassan Reddick, did not stand a chance. Another thing that's not brought up, and this would not have made the Giants win the game, and I want that much to be clear, but the Giants' swing from Sunday in the wild card round to Saturday in the divisional round is never ideal for any team. Going into Philly of all environments on a day's less rest, while they had 2 weeks played a part in this too, and that will be one thing to remember during next year's playoffs. Pay attention to the Sunday to Saturday swing from the wild card to the divisional round, because it is a huge deal. And the talent difference being palpable goes into the next big thing we learned from the 2022 NFL playoffs, more of a reiteration, and it's that defense matters. I know that's stating the obvious, but what I mean by this is when your favorite team is taking a player in the first or second round of the NFL draft that you may question or you may not agree with, the vision for them is to get after the quarterback during January and to come up with either a big pressure or sack to help win their team the game. And this is why pass rushers are drafted so high and why there is such an emphasis placed on the position. Multiple games this postseason represent this, and within both of the Eagles' postseason wins, they dominated up front due in large part to their pass rush. Of course, we now remember the Jags-Chargers game for the huge comeback, and credit of course goes to Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence for leading the comeback, but within this game, Trevor was not great under pressure, and in this game he was 2 of 9 for 15 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He, like Daniel Jones against Philly, also had a passer rating of 0 under pressure. And one of the biggest takeaways, or things we learned from this postseason, is for as fun as watching Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and everyone else when they're cooking, is defenses will adjust and figure out a way to slow these guys down. Maybe not over the course of a game, but over the course of the season, it will happen. And there's a reason for, as talented as the Chiefs and Bengals both are, they combined for 43 points in the AFC Championship game. Even Joe Burrow, a player who typically performs under pressure and a player who has no problem dealing with the pass rush and getting hit in order to help his team win a big game, did not play well under pressure in Kansas City. In that game, he was 5 of 13 for 81 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. That is, of course, when he was under pressure. He also had a passer rating of just 20.5. And I think what sometimes gets forgotten over the course of the regular season when we're seeing these guys make insane plays, like Mahomes' flip touchdown to Jerick McKinnon against Denver, or any of the big play touchdowns Joe Burrow threw this year, or hell, the Hurts to A.J. Brown connection, is that defensive coaches can and will figure these guys out at some point. And throughout the NFL draft process, you may hear about some of the top prospects that they can really take over a game, but what exactly does that mean? I don't think there's a better representation of that than over the past 2 weeks, watching Haason Reddick absolutely destroy both the Giants and 49ers. He had a combined 12 pressures, 3.5 sacks, and even had a forced fumble. Unfortunately for the 49ers, Brock Purdy got hurt on one of the many plays Reddick has made this postseason, and if the past 2 weeks have shown anything about Reddick, it's that he is one of the most underrated, not just pass rushers or defensive players, but one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL. Reddick has 39.5 sacks in the past 3 years, and he was born and raised in South Jersey, which, for those that may not know, is only a couple of miles from Philly and ultimately Lincoln Financial Field. Reddick got to come home and make big plays for his team, and this 2022 Eagles roster reminds me so much of their 2017 roster, which was the year they won the Super Bowl. A big reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, though not the only reason, as Nick Foles played out of his mind during both the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, was because of how much pass rushing depth they had, and 2022 is no different. Philadelphia was one of only 3 teams to have 3 players with at least 50 pressures, as Haason Reddick, Javon Hargrave, and Brandon Graham all had 50-plus pressures on the year. One of the other 2 was not surprising, as San Francisco had 3 players with 50-plus pressures, and the other may surprise you due to the relative lack of team success, but it was the New England Patriots. And how all of this comes full circle is, while the NFL draft is a couple of months away, it is draft season for 30 NFL teams. And if a team that is seemingly stacked at defensive end or outside linebacker takes another pass rusher, do not be surprised, because it seems every January, whether it's Nick Bosa helping the 49ers win a game, or a team like the Eagles have a downright insane year like they did in 2022, defense and pass rush win games in the postseason. And for how good the Eagles' defense has been and why defense matters so much in the playoffs, there is a blatant example of how bad defense can cost you an entire season in just 60 short minutes. The Minnesota Vikings went 13-4 during the regular season and hosted the Giants in the wild card round. A lot of people thought the Vikings were frauds and that Kirk Cousins can't win and the whole 9. I'm sure you've heard it all with the Minnesota Vikings, but what gets lost aside from the final play on 4th and 8 when Kirk threw a 3-yard route to TJ Hawkinson was how bad the defense was in this game. Sure, at the moment the 4th and 8 looked awful on Kirk, but within the game Kirk actually played pretty good. He was 31 of 39 for 273 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He also had a passer rating of 112.9, and on paper, You would think that would be enough for a win, but the Giants had over 430 yards of total offense and put up 31 points on the road. And if you were told before the game starts that your team will do exactly that, put up 30 plus points and have over 430 yards of offense in a playoff game, you're going to feel pretty damn good and think you are well on your way to the next round. And sure, people were getting their jokes and their digs in at the Vikings immediately after the game, like we all knew this was going to happen and they'd choke and everything along these lines. But to me, the only thing that this game proved was just how much defense matters in the playoffs. Occasionally, you're going to have a player like Patrick Mahomes make a downright insane play, as I do believe he could retire right now and be a Hall of Famer at 27 years old, but more often than not, defense will prevail. And the last two Super Bowls show that in a big way. The Bucs held the Chiefs to 9 points in Super Bowl 55, and Patrick Mahomes was running for his life all night. In Super Bowl 56, Aaron Donald stepped up and made a huge play, as if he did not, Joe Burrow probably would have thrown a game-winning touchdown pass and won a Super Bowl in his second season. Another big thing that I think has been reiterated throughout the past few weeks is just how much of a team game football is. Inevitably, quarterbacks receive a ton of credit, and you always hear about the infamous quarterback wins. But if you examine some of the quote-unquote quarterback wins taking place this postseason, it was a lot more of other players stepping up than the quarterback. The Ravens-Bengals game is a perfect example of this, as the Ravens were driving in the fourth quarter, and Tyler Huntley had the Ravens ready to score to take the lead early in the fourth quarter. It looked like the defending AFC champion Bengals could be knocked out by a backup quarterback at home, only for the defense to poke the ball out and for Sam Hubbard to take it 98 yards the other way. And the Bengals did not play great in this game offensively, and it's not like Joe Burrow was lighting the Ravens defense up. This was a classic AFC North game, and a game where one play made all the difference. And I know you may be thinking, well, no shit, football is a team game, but I think it gets lost at times when people try to blame one person for one mistake, when in fact there is 1,000 other things that could have bounced a team's way during the course of a game. The Sam Hubbard play, however, set the tone from there on out, and from that point on, it felt like it was the Bengals' game to lose. And when you have a backup quarterback on the road like the Ravens did, you can't have these types of mistakes happen. At the end of the day, defense wins championships, and I cannot wait to see how the Eagles play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Philly has given up 14 points in 2 games and at the moment are 1.5 point favorites. How will they game plan around the best quarterback in the NFL? Will Patrick Mahomes be running for his life like he has in previous Super Bowls, or will Big Red have a day against his former team with everything on the line? Either way, I can't wait to find out. And that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help a ton. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.